Here are 12 players you need to pick up for the fantasy playoffs. The first player we're going to talk about today is Isaiah Hodgins from the New York Giants. He played 90% of the snaps on Sunday. He scored on back-to-back games, and thanks to his massive 6'4" size, he's been a matchup nightmare. Look for him to get some extra workload going forward. Going to the running back position here, a guy you need to think about here is Julius Chestnut, running back for the Tennessee Titans. Dontrell Hilliard was carted off. Chestnut saw every RB2 snap behind Derrick Henry. Good handcuff to get for Derrick Henry, or just an insurance policy, because Henry is top 5 in running back work rate. Going to a wide receiver that you need to be interested in. I was surprised that he's only rostered in 30% of leagues, and that's Elijah Moore, wide receiver for the Jets. He played in 82% of the snaps this week, his most since week 4, with Zach Wilson not getting work. With Mike White, lots of targets going his way. He's had 12 points on a team-high 10 targets last week. Look for this to continue. Look for the targets to keep coming his way. Going to a handcuffed running back that you need to be interested in is Jordan Mason, running back for the 49ers. He saw 44% of the carries last week, 5.6 yards per touch in the last 2 weeks. He's played a season-high 30% of the snaps on Sunday. This workload was game script dependent because it was a blowout, but if something happens to Christian McCaffrey, everybody's going to be running to waivers to pick him up to get some of that workload. A wide receiver saw an increase of workload due to injuries was Chris Moore for the Texans last week. He was the wide receiver one for week 14, but he's been targeted recently in some of his previous games. He earned 11 targets on an 80% snap share. Volume is there when Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks is out, or if either one of them is out, but also he has been getting a baseline of like 5-6 targets per game prior to that point. Here's a running back that's been getting a lot of workload in the passing game recently, and that's Jerick McKinnon. Blew up last week. We've been talking about him a lot on the channel. Just dropped the video on him as well. Scored 32 fantasy points in week 14 and played 57% of the snaps, but he's getting a lot of work in the passing game. He is this week's dandy on the waiver wire. Everybody's been looking at him, and yes, he's got a baseline usage point that gives him a solid floor. A player who has a high ceiling, low floor, but everyone should be interested in is DJ Chark. An air yards guy. Think of Will Fuller back in the day. Those deep targets, those bombs, those touchdowns available in 60% of leagues. Since he returned in week 12 from his injury, just seen his snaps increase from a 78% snap share and 5 targets in week 12 to an 84% snap share and 6 targets in week 13 to an 86% snap share and 7 targets in week 14. Things are trending up for DJ Chark when he's healthy, which has been 6 games. He's been a top 24 wide receiver, and he's got Carolina and Chicago coming up in his next matchups. A running back that you need to get that should be an insurance policy going forward is Joshua Kelly, running back for the Chargers. If something happens to Austin Eckler, you're going to want him on your team. After returning in week 12 from his injury, he's seen his snaps increase each week. Last week, he played in 40% of the snaps. Look for him to get some workload, but you're really going to want him if something happens to Eckler. A stash that you need on your roster, and I know a lot of you already have him, is Jameson Williams. He's a big-time stash. Played 19% of the snaps last week. Saw 2 targets in week 14. Has 3 targets on 8 career routes. Scored on a deep touchdown last week. Deep ball guy, air yards, speed for days. We might see some of this workload trickle up throughout the end of the season as well. Another rookie, and he should be rostered in a lot of leagues, but we just need to let you know that he's a certified baller, and that's Zonovan Knight, running back for the Jets. In 3 games, he's averaging 15.3 PPR points, 18.7 touches per game. He's a workhorse. And this wide receiver is also a workhorse, and we're talking about Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's been seeing volume throughout the season, had a career game last week, 114 yards on 12 targets. Deshaun Watson targeted him deep 4 times. He's been steady all season long. And a veteran wide receiver you may want to think about if you're hurting is Julio Jones. Last week, he saw 8 targets, a 15.7% target share, and 80 air yards. He's been getting workload off and on this back half of the season since he came back healthy. He's also averaging 6 targets per game over his last 4 games with a 70.2% route participation rate and averaging 76.8 air yards per game. So if you're chasing workload, that's some workload for you to chase. But let me know in the comments below who you're getting off waivers this week to help you in the playoffs. Also, hit that subscribe button. It's only going to help you going forward. Suggestions for the waivers, suggestions for trades, suggestions for lineup advice, and everything else. Got you for Dynasty as well. But I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.